Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Gripdo ND, where we explore money, emotions, learning differences, and all the ways we can help every child feel confident and capable. Today's guest is someone very special to me personally. She was the first teacher for my neurodivergent son at a very big school, and honestly, one of the reasons he had such a warm, supportive school starting experience. She's an educator, a trained SEN specialist, and now a school counselor with a deep understanding of emotional well being, behavior, and inclusion. She's patient, she's kind, and fiercely committed to her students. And I'm so grateful she said yes to joining us today. Welcome, Laia. I'm so happy to have you here.
Hello, thank you so much and for your kind words. Yeah, it's the first time I'm doing something like this. And just hearing how you talk about me, yeah, it makes me feel really happy.
You're
And yeah,
amazing.
grateful.
Let's get into it and
Yes.
let's do the big one first when it comes to emotions and early money skills. Do you think that money related skills like saving or sharing or even delayed gratification are actually linked to emotional development?
Definitely. Yeah, I think so. Money related skills are linked to emotional development. It's in the first place, skills like saving, for example, or waiting before spending require emotional regulation. It
Mm,
requires managing the impulse, tolerating the
yes,
frustration, and having that long term goal in mind all the time, right?
yes.
So these are key aspects of self regulation, which is part of emotional development. And we know, and you know best actually, that for young people with autism, for example,
Mm,
regulation can be especially challenging because of sensory needs, sensitivities, and these are typical characteristics of an ASD diagnosis. And sharing relies on social understanding as well,
yes,
social and emotional understanding.
yes.
It requires, for example, understanding what's fair and what's not. It requires to consider another person's perspective, and
Mm,
it involves being able to set boundaries too. So
yes.
learning how to share, for example, can be a good opportunity to discuss consent, saying no, and being
Mm,
self-aware of our own needs. Learning financial skills build confidence too.
yes.
Teaching young people these skills can help them feel more confident,
Mm,
make more accurate decisions, perhaps, and feel in control of spending, which may reduce an anxiety and support their emotional development. So I guess the answer would be yes, for
yes.
many
And
reasons, right?
and you
And probably more
really
reasons than I said.
yes, and you really hit the nail on the head when you said it reduces anxiety because I mean most of the parents find teaching money hard for any child, but for parents of neurodivergent kids like us, there is another layer of stress where some parents tell me, my child gets anxious or they're impulsive. I don't know how to talk about money without making it stressful. So for
Yeah.
and it's so hard because we know it's not anybody's fault. It's just for kids who struggle with anxiety or impulsivity. I was wondering how can parents introduce money topics without any stress or any shame involved?
That's a very good question and very well linked with the first one. As you know, and you did that in your presentation, I'm an emotional well-being counselor right now, but I
Mm,
started my career as an SEN teacher. And so I
yes.
always believed in the positive discipline and,
Mm,
firm and kind at the same time,
yes.
connection before correction, and that kind
Yes.
of thing.
Mm,
So taking this into account, I would suggest families to introduce these topics, money topics, or any topic really,
mm,
from curiosity, from your child's interest, rather than correction.
true.
So for young people who struggle with anxiety, uncertainty may fuel more stress. We know that, and
Yes.
so making money conversations natural,
Mm,
predictable, may
mm,
help a lot. Choosing perhaps short, regular time each week, keeping it the same format, and keeping the tone very calm, factual, no matter of fact.
yeah. Yeah.
That can really help that anxiety.
Mm,
Other tips, perhaps, like making learning very visual, using
yes.
pictures,
Yes.
trackers.
Yes.
Perhaps if we think about money, separating envelopes, right? For spending, saving, or giving.
Yes.
Or if your child is younger, perhaps like something more fun, like jars, or like, anything that it's really exciting.
Yes.
And make it age appropriate always.
Mm.
If the young person is much older and they have access to a bank account, for example, then
Mm.
perhaps putting limits to it and explaining that,
Yes.
in a kind way, of course, but always
Yes.
very. So yeah, another thing perhaps that I would suggest would be validating emotions when it comes to anxiety or feeling
Mm.
stress. And this part, perhaps this idea comes more from my counseling background now.
Mm. Yes.
If a child or a young person feels embarrassed or
Mm.
feels stressed or overwhelmed, validate the feelings. Acknowledging their emotions helps them to feel understood. Perhaps
Mm.
may help them to regulate, to reduce the intensity of these emotions. And so
Yes.
then when they're regulated in a calm place, they can problem solve and use perhaps all the learning that you've been teaching.
Yes, and your answer has given way to two more interesting questions for me. So, in your experience, you worked as teaching as therapist and right now as a counselor. So,
Mhm.
I can safely say you worked with kids across ADHD or autism or dyslexia. And just
Yeah.
last week, I discovered dyscalculia, all these unique learning profiles. So,
Mhm.
coming to understand that each of them is a whole spectrum in itself. It's like you meet one child with one profile, they're very different, even if they are of the same umbrella, right? So, what
Totally.
are, I know you said let's make it visual, but for a parent or for a teacher, what are some signs that a child might need a more sensory or experiential, like role play way of learning about money? If we can get that out quickly, I think a lot of stress can be reduced.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Every child is different. And I'm going to start saying that you said as well, even if they're under the same diagnosis. But in general, young learners may prefer a more sensory and experiential learning approach because they usually focus best when it's a hands-on
Hands
activity,
on.
something that they can actually do and touch.
Yes.
So in my opinion, the younger the child, the more
Mm,
sensory the activity should be.
mm. What are some signs a child might need more sensory or an experiential way, like role play way of learning about money?
Yeah. So every child is different, right? And you said that already. But in
Mm,
general, young learners prefer a more sensory learning approach. So they
yes,
usually focus best when it's hands-on activity,
hands on.
something that they can touch, something that they can do.
Yes.
So in my opinion, the younger the child, the more sensory the activity should be. However, there are older kids and young people that, for whatever reason, they may
Mm,
always prefer a more sensory approach.
mm,
And some of the signs could be that they find it challenging to understand abstract concepts, for example,
yes,
or they
yes.
find it difficult to stay focused for a long period of time with only
Mm,
verbal instructions,
true.
or they may get easily distracted or fidget. That's
Yes.
another sign. No, they start
Yes, yes,
moving. They seek for physical movement,
yes.
or they may have a need to touch things, and they show interest for textures or objects.
Mm,
In that case, with any of these signs, no matter how old is the child, I think that we have enough evidence that indicates that the more experiential or sensory approach would be
yeah.
beneficial for them to learn.
And I feel like it truly benefits everyone to understand this sort of inclusion that happens in a classroom. And instead of artificially introducing inclusion, if it's just part of how the whole class learns, I feel it will
Mhm.
be truly a very good experience for everyone involved.
Yeah, when we were talking about making the learning experience more visual, everyone can benefit from that. For example, like
Mm,
using real coins or notes or like envelopes that are labeled as I said before, or jars, no, like spend, save, or share.
yes.
Using timelines, using timers as well to indicate how long the activity is going to be.
Not just the neurodivergent child, any child benefits from that. And I feel like that is the way that every learning has to happen. So, and now to the second part of my question that started from
Sure.
your answer earlier. So, And it's also very close to my heart, because I always tell that money is only part money, it's part psychology. And what happens when a child feels different academically or socially? Because I know not many of the kids are verbal, but they do know that they feel different. And how could that possibly affect their confidence in handling money or life situations later on?
Yeah, interesting point as well, right? Because there's the skills, the money skills itself, and the
Yes.
learning experience, and how they can access to the learning. But then there's the
Yes.
emotional part of it, as you said. It's so
Yes.
important, because a child who feels different may develop low self-esteem,
Mm.
which will later affect how they perceive themselves as learners and how they handle new learning experiences. For example, in the future, handling money.
Yes.
So the child may think, for example, I'm not good enough, or I'm not capable enough,
Mm.
I don't fit in. And these experiences in childhood and their interpretation will create their core beliefs. No? Once created, these core beliefs become quite rigid and
Yes.
feel they are the absolute truth, right?
Yes.
So they do have a really big impact on that person's behavior, thoughts, and feelings. For example, they may think they won't understand things from now on, or they may feel shame or embarrassment, and that will impact how capable they feel solving money problems.
Yes.
So we can guess that they will be less willing to take risks and
True.
try something new. So the same for the opposite, right? If a
Mm.
child feels they are capable, they can do this because this is the core belief and they feel they fit in thanks to
Mm.
inclusion, thanks to all the support that they're having. They perhaps will want to try something new and
Yes.
risk it a little bit more. So
Yes.
that's really important how they perceive themselves as learners and as people.
Yes. And that really resonates, because I've seen versions of what you say, even with families that I work with. And I always tell them, focus more on the capacity building in a positive way. And money
Mhm.
will it's just what you're building, and money is just one layer on it. We don't have to straight away go into money. We focus on capacity building first. So for us parents, can helping our kids understanding emotions early help them grow into a more confident, independent adult? Because you said if they feel very supported and included into things, automatically we have like a confident adult. So
Yeah.
how, when it comes to like even financial choices or anything, how do we build them up?
Yeah, I think regarding your question, understanding emotions early, the earliest, the better. I think so.
Yeah.
We have more time to practice. Will potentially make adults that are more confident. I do believe that self-regulation and developing an understanding of our own emotions during childhood makes us feel more confident as well. It's never too late, anyways, right, to learn these
Yes.
skills. But the more time that we have
Mm.
practice, the better. And I think thanks to that learning experience, we know how we feel. We can use healthy coping strategies that we have
Mm.
practiced over the years.
Yes.
Um, and I'm going to give you an example. Even in childhood, we learn that we may experience anxiety when
Mm.
we are put under pressure.
Mm.
And that anxiety comes in a form of physical symptoms, for example. Our heart is beating faster,
Yes.
or we may be sweating more. We may experience difficult thoughts like, what if this happens?
Mm.
What if this other thing
Yes.
happens? Then, when as adults we feel anxious, we kind of normalize that emotion. It
Mm.
is expected feeling this way in some situations,
Yes. Yes.
especially if they are stressful. And then we perhaps may remember strategy that works for us, which
Mm.
could be breathing to calm our bodies, or
Yes.
talk about how we feel with someone we trust, or
Yes.
going for a run and kind of burning all that, or taking a long shower to
Yes.
regain control and regulate before feeling more overwhelmed. So
Mm.
having learned all these as children contributes to adults feeling more confident and self-regulating.
Mm.
Then when it comes to financial choices, no, which is
Mm.
the more understanding we have of how we feel and how to use the coping strategies, the better we will be making rational decisions. because the more
Yes,
regulated we will be all the time.
that's true.
And I guess that's how I link confidence and regulation, and then money skills or any skills, as you say.
It just follows it. I tell everyone there's no such thing as money skills. It's what life skills that we apply in financial area. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful you brought up strategies, because there are some strategies that were taught to my son when he was going through an anxious period at school. And until date, the whole family, right now, we all are using the red zone, blue zone, green zone strategy. And it's so great, because right now we are at a stage where we can sort of predict what zone we are going into and sort
Yeah.
of prepare our environment accordingly.
Mhm.
I truly, like what you say, instead of focusing on financial skills, that's why I speak to a lot of counselors and therapists like you, to sort of emphasize that let's focus on this life skills first, and it's
Yeah.
only an extension of that we build on the money skills. So
Yeah.
to round this thing up, what is your advice to parents who want to start financial conversations in a very neurodiverse, affirming and friendly way? Like one
Mhm.
or notes for us.
Yeah. I think usually parents know their children really, really well. And that's from my experience as a teacher and now as a school counselor too. They know what they like, they know what they don't like,
Yes.
they know what makes them feel in control. They know that little gesture that shows they're uncomfortable.
Yes.
And I think this is because they spend time building a connection with their children.
Mm-hmm.
This relationship and connection is key to teach anything to your
Mm,
child.
yes.
And not just as a young child, but as a young person too. They need to trust, and they trust because you invested time in getting to know them. Right?
Yes. Yeah.
I often explain this anecdote, and actually, it's from when I was teaching your child,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of period of my life. That when I used to work as an SDN teacher, I would
Mm,
spend perhaps the first week or so of the new academic year playing with the children
yes.
in the movement room, in the playground, during lunch break, having lunch together in the classroom. And I rarely would start introducing a big academic topic or a new skill that I was challenging. What it could be perceived from the outside as wasting time, right? Kind
I
of
know. I know.
for me was a really good investment of my time.
Mm,
I
mm,
needed the children to know that we can have fun together.
yes.
We could have fun together, that they could trust me because
Mm,
then we were building this connection. And before going in the teacher mode,
yes.
asking them to do something in class, they knew that, we could spend time together in a calm way, in a fun
Mm.
way.
The bond is
And then,
formed.
yeah, exactly. I needed that connection. So
Yes.
then I could start, okay, now let's go to difficult things.
Listen to me.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess my little piece of advice is to make sure that you as parents, like any family, any carer, use the information that you already have about your child to connect and to adapt then later on to financial conversations. Use
Mm,
visuals, for example, using their favorite cartoon or theme. No, if your child is very much into train, for
mm,
example, why not using that to learn about
yes.
prices or budgeting? Practice in real life, make it really, really experiential and sensory. If you can perceive that they start feeling uncomfortable, work on those skills of regulation skills. And as you mentioned, the zones of regulation is a great resource for
Mm,
that. You may also want to think about clarity, predictability, concrete examples
yes.
to the concept that you're explaining, right? Avoiding abstract.
Mm.
And so those are tips that probably all parents know by now. But yeah, I guess my advice would be connection first, and then everything will follow.
And I remember so well that you were one of the first persons who introduced me to strengths based approach when we were all grappling with how do we teach. You were one educator who always believed in adopting a strengths based approach. You were able to recognize what the child was interested in, what the child was like my son, he was more visual, so you came up with a lot of social stories for him. And until date, we do a lot of social stories. So like educators like you really, help us to approach very complex issues, but you give us good strategies. And I feel the warmth already talking to you. So Laia, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
sharing your insights, your experience, and your warmth today. Conversations like this always reminds me that learning is not one size fits all. I learned so much today, and I truly hope we can collaborate more as my crypto ND vertical grows. And
I
because
would love
voice
it.
because voices like yours are truly special, and it makes a lot of difference for parents who are just beginning this complex journey. And I hope this reaches them. So thank you for coming today.
Thank
And
you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
thank
Thank
you.
you.
I've always wanted you on, and I'm so glad we did it. So, to all the parents, teachers, and caregivers listening, like Laia said, there are different pathways to learning. Different brains need different pathways. Somehow, society and the system have come to define a normal, and it can be easy to forget that every child learns in their own way. What truly helps is understanding your child's unique learning profile, recognizing the type of support that they need, and seeking guidance from experts and amazing counselors like Laia. Doing that, we can set our children up for success, not only academically, but also emotionally and in life skills like handling money. Because in famous Temple Grandin's words, different doesn't mean less. It just means that we need to meet each child where they are and help them thrive in a way that's right for them. Thank you for listening to Crypto NT. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with another parent, caregiver, or educator who might need this reminder today.